Hello students and welcome back to Math Learning. So our topic for this moment is all about the square root of a number. Pero bago tayo pumunta sa ating main topic, the square root of a number or finding the square root of a number, focus muna tayo dito sa definitions and terms na pwede nating ma-encounter dealing with solving the square root of a number. So we have this first definition and terms. Sa first term natin, meron tayong tinatawag na power. Ano ba yung ibig sabihin natin ng power? Power is a combination of base and exponent. So for example, meron tayo dito, we have two parts of a power. Meron tayong tinatawag na base at meron tayong tinatawag na exponent. Pag sinabi nating base, eto yung 5 dito. Pag sinabi naman nating exponent, eto yung small number dito sa upper right ng base na to. At ang tawag sa kanila is power. They are called power. Next, we have this term. Ano po? Sabi ko kanina, we have the exponent. A number written on the upper right, in the upper right side of a number that tells us how many times the number is to be multiplied by itself. So in our example, 5 raised to 2 can be written as, this 5 raised to 2 can be written as 5 squared. Ano po? So that is 5 squared. And it means we have this square root of, we have this small number dito sa upper right side of a number that will tell us on how many times the number is to be multiplied to this base 5. Ano po? Now, dito tayo sa reading powers. In reading power, meron tayong example dito. Example, we have 7 squared, or it can be read as 7 to the second power or 7 squared. Ano po? This means that we need to multiply this base according to the power. So meaning to say we need to multiply this base 2 times by itself. So meaning to say we have 7 times 7 or we have 7 times 7. Ano po? So that is the meaning of this power of this 7 raised to 2 or 7 squared, because we multiply 7 2 times by itself because of this square, because of this exponent. So next we have 7 raised to the third power, or 7 to the third power, or can be read as 7 cubed. So this means that we need to multiply the base 3 times by itself. So meaning to say, this small number here at the upper right side of that base, meaning to say we need to multiply 7 by itself 3 times. So we have 7 times 7 times 7. And then we have this 8 raised to the fourth power, or 8 to the fourth power. This means that we need to multiply the base 8 by itself 4 times. So we have 8 times 8 times 8 times 8. Ano po? Now, we have this square root. We have this square root or root. Square root means, we have this example. This can be read as the square root of 9. And the square root of 9 has its roots. Pag sinabi natin root, meron tayong positive and negative result of this square root of 9. We have root of positive 3 and negative 3, because if we multiply 3 by itself, we have the result of positive 9. And also if we have to multiply negative 3 by itself, so we have equal to 9. So the square root of the number is one of 2 equal factors of a number. Ano po? So we have this another term, which is the perfect square. When we say perfect square, these are the numbers which are the result of squaring a certain number, a number whose square root is a whole number. So example, we have this 3 raised to the second power, and it will equal to 3 times 3, and the result is 9. Thus, 9 is a perfect square, because 9 is a result by multiplying a number which is 3 by itself, and the result is this 9. So we have 9 is a perfect square. Next, example.
4 raised to 2 is equals to 4 times 4, and also it will equal to the product of 16. Thus, 16 is a perfect square because 16 is a result of multiplying a number by itself, which is that number is 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. So meaning to say 16 is our perfect square.
Next, we have also 25.
Okay, we have this 25. 25 is a perfect square because 25 can be, could be a product of a number, or a single, this could be a product of a number which is 5 times 5. Ano po? And the result is 25. And also, it can be a product of this factor, negative 5 times negative 5. And the result is positive 25.
So that is a perfect square. Pag sinabi natin class perfect square, meron tayong isang number na kapag minultiply natin yung number sa sarili niya, the result is a perfect square. Next, these are the important parts to remember of a radical expression. Since we're going to deal with a radical symbol, so meron tayo ditong parts. Ano po? So if we have this given, the square root of a, so meaning to say our index is this one, this n. Ano po? That's called an index. Etong nasa loob na a na to, suppose that a is any real number. So that is called radicand. Kung ano yung nasa loob ng square root or radical sign, that is called a radicand. Ito yung radical. Radical sign naman, ito. Ito yung radical sign natin. Radical sign, and then sa loob niyan, ito, a, we have this radicand. Ano po? And also, the square root of a is result to the root. Ano po? Ito yung tinatawag nating root. Meron tayong tinatawag na root na positive root, and then meron tayong negative root. Ano po? Next. Radical expression. Ano pa ibig sabihin ng radical expression? So, radical expression is an expression containing an nth root of a number, where n is the index of the root. A root having an index of 2 is called the square root. Ano po? So, for example, we have this given, square root of 4. So, we have this index here. We have the index of 2. So, pwede na naman po na ganito, square root of 4. Kapag walang nakalagay na number dyan, it means the index is 2. Ano po? And also, we have a root having the index of 3. Ano po? So, that is called a cube root. Ano po? So, if we have this one, the cube root of 8. Ano po? Etong nandito sa etong 3 to is called an index. Ano po? Also, if we're going to deal with roots of a higher index, it also referred by using ordinal numbers like 4th root, 5th root, and so on and so forth. For example, we have the 6th root of 25. So that is, ano po, ang tawag dyan, 6th root, 5th root, 7th root, or any of that index. Ano po? Next, ano ba yung index? Pag sinabi nating index, these are the bases to determine how many times the number will be multiplied by itself, which will result into a number within the radical sign. For example, we have the square root of 4, and the result of the square root of 4 could be positive 2 or negative 2. Ano po? Now, we have this radical sign. Radical sign is a symbol that represents a radical expression. Ito na po yung radical dito. Ito na. Ano po? Next, we have radicand, a number inside the radical sign. Ano po? If we have this one, the square root of 4, meaning to say the radicand here is 4. Ano po? And this one is a radical sign. And dito naman is our index, which is 2. And also the root is the resulting of extracting a radical expression. When we say extracting, hahatiin natin yung sa loob ng radical symbol, which means eto 4, meaning to say we need to extract that as 2 times 2 because 4 is a result of a number that can be multiplied by itself, which is 2 times 2. Ano po? Now, we have this principal square root. What do we mean by principal square root? Principal square root is refers only to the positive square root of a number. For example, we have this square root of 4, and the square root of 4 will result to positive 2 or negative 2. So meaning to say, the principal square root of the square root of 4 is only this positive 2. That is the square root, or that is the principal square root. And if we're talking about the square root, so the square root of 4 is positive 2 and negative 2. Because dealing with the square root of a number, we have these two results, the positive 2 or the negative 2. Ano po? So now, let's move on to, let's deal with squaring of a number. So let's now try to find the nth root of a perfect square, or could be irrational numbers using factor 3. Ano po? So dito gagamitin natin hanapin natin yung nth root of a perfect square. When we say perfect square, it is referred to the rational numbers. Ano po? So gagamitin natin ang factor 3. At before we start, kailangan nyo munang alamin yung first 20 perfect square number. Ano po? Ito yung first 20. Ito yung here are the first 20 perfect square. They are called perfect square because they can arrange into a square. So for example, we have this 1 because 1 raised to 2 or 1 times 1 is equals to 1. So we have there 1. And also we have this 4. 4 is a result of multiplying 2 times 2. Ano po? So 2 times 2 is equals to 4. This unit is 2. This one is 2 times 2, that is 4. And the square root of 4 is 2. Ano po? So we have this 9. Example 9. We have this 9. So 9 is composed by 3 times 3. So the result is 9. And also this one, 16, because 16 is a perfect square because it could be composed by, or can be a result of multiplying 4 times 4. So that result is 16. So I hope you get dito pa lang sa example natin na to, or dito pa lang sa discussion natin is nakakaroon na kayo ng hint kung paano ba kunin ang root of a perfect square. Ano po? So now, let's proceed. So since we are in the state of pandemic, meron tayong matrivia for the square root of a number. So gamitin natin yon. Ano po? So meron tayong concept dito na gagamitin na hango sa pandemic. Ano po? So meron tayong mga bagay, or dahil sa pandemic, may mga bagay na pwede at mga bagay na hindi pwede. So dito naman sa square root of a number, may mga bawal at may mga pwedeng lumabas. Ano po? So ano ba yung mga bawal lumabas? Ano ba yung mga pwedeng lumabas? Ano ba yung mga nakalabas? At ano ba yung hindi nakakalabas? Ano po? So dito, we're dealing with numbers. Ano po? So let's try. Let's start dealing with this number. So we have the square root of 484. How are we going to find the root of 484, or the square root of 484? So to begin with, let's apply the factor 3. So etong 484 na to, isulat muna natin dito. So we have 484. And then we're going to find those factors na magko-compose or magkakaroon tayo ng product na 484. So para malaman natin yon, we need to divide 484 by 2. And the result of that is
242. Ngayon, yung 242, pwede pa natin siya ma-divide by 2, and the result will be 121. And also, 121 can be divided by 11, right? So we have 121 divided by 11 is 11.
So now, after we find all of those factors na magko-compose dito sa 484, ilagay na natin siya into the or inside the radical symbol. So we have this one.
2 times 2 times 11 times 11.
And after that, we're going to find those number na pwedeng lumabas at hindi pwedeng lumabas. Ano po? Para malaman natin yan, since etong given na to is under the square root of a number, so meaning to say, meron tayong index na 2. Ano po? So meaning, hahanap tayo ng mga number na ipipair natin sa bawat isa. So meron tayong ditong dalawang number na pwede nating i-paired out. So we have 2 times 2. So same number sila, so pwede natin silang i-partner. Ano po? So ganito lang po yung magiging result niyan. So underline natin, and also 11 times 11 could pwede natin siyang i-paired. Ano po? So after nating ma-paired out, so after natin mahanap yung mga number na pwede nating i-partner, so sana all may partner. So ilalabas na po natin siya dito sa loob ng radical symbol. At kapag nilabas na natin siya, magiging isang number na lang po siya. Ano po? So we have lang, at etong 11 times 11 magiging 11 na lang po. And after natin siyang mailabas, yung nailabas natin na number is i-multiply na natin siya. So magiging na siyang 2 times 11, and the result is 22. Okay, the result is 22. 2 times 11 is 22. So now, since we are dealing with the square root of 484, so meaning to say, ang result po ng square root or roots of this 484 is the positive and the negative 22. Because positive 22 times positive 22, the result is 484. Ano po? And also we have negative 22 times negative 22 is equals also to 484. So meaning to say, the square root or roots are positive 22 and negative 22. Now, what about the principal square root of this 484? So the principal square root of this 484 is focused only on the positive result. So the positive result is only positive 22. So the principal square root of 484 is only positive 20, but the square root are positive 22 and negative 22. So I hope nakukuha nyo yung pattern na ginagamit natin. Ano po? So next, what about the square root of 256? So same process tayo. So balikan muna natin. So 424 is, alam natin na yung 484 is a perfect square because the result of squaring this 484, meron tayong whole number na nakuha, which is 22. Ano po? So meaning to say, 484 is a perfect square, an example of rational number. So next example tayo, we have 256. So how are we going to find the roots of 256? So same process tayo mga kamat learning. So ang gagawin natin, we're just going to use the factor tree or the prime factorization for us to be able to find those numbers na magko-compose or na magre-result sa 256. So we have this one, 256. Sulat natin dito, 256. And then, hanapin natin yung mga factors by using this three 3-factor or prime factorization. So 256 can be divided by 3 and the result is, or 256 can be divided by 2 and the result is 128, and also 128 can be divided by 2 and the result is 64, and also 64 can be divided by 2 and the result of that is 32, and also 32 can be divided by 2 and the result is 16. And then continue the process, hahanap tayo ng number na pwede makapag-divide sa 16, and dapat yung dinidivide natin are the set of prime numbers. So 16 also can be divided by 2. Divide natin siya sa 2. So we have 16 divided 2 is, you have 8, and also 8 can be divided by 2. The result is 4, and 4 is can be divided by 2 and the result is 2. And after that, kunin na natin yung mga nakuha nating factors at ilagay natin dito sa loob ng radical symbol. So how many 2s do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 2. So, ang gagawin natin is aalamin natin, since we are finding the square root of a number, so meaning to say, the index is 2. So, mag-pair out tayo ng mga numbers. Ano yung mga pwedeng nating i-paired or i-partner na numbers? So, we have this 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. At ang gagawin natin dyan, ilalabas natin siya dito sa loob ng radical sign. So, yung 2, pag nalabas na natin siya sa radical sign, magiging na lang isang 2. Ito naman, magiging isang 2. Ito naman, magiging isang 2. At ito naman, magiging isang 2. And then, after natin ilabas, i-multiply na natin sila. Times na natin yan. And the result of that is 2 times 2. We have 4 times 2. 8. And 8 times 2 is 16. So, meaning to say, the square root of 256 are positive 16 and negative 16. So because we are finding the root of 256, dito sa square root meron tayong dalawang sagot. The positive 16 and then the negative 16. Because if you're going to multiply positive 16 times positive 16, the result is 256. And also, if you're going to multiply negative 16 times negative 16, the result also is 256. But, if we're going to find only the principal square root, so kukunin lang natin yung positive result. So, the result is positive 16 only. So, that is on how to find the nth root of a perfect square. So meaning to say 256 is a perfect square because the result is a whole number. So next, how about we're going to find the square root of a number that is not a perfect square? So madali lang po ito, class. So gagamitin natin itong concept na ito, bawal lumabas, pwede lumabas, ano yung nakalabas at ano yung hindi nakakalabas. So kapag meron tayong non-perfect square, ang tawag sa kanila is irrational number. So, paano natin aalamin yung mga number or paano natin aalamin yung mga root ng hindi perfect square or so we call irrational number? So, ganito lang. If we're going to have this example, for example, we have the square root of 12. Let's start with the smallest number, or the small numbers. We have this 12. So, ang gagawin natin, apply lang natin yung factor 3. Eto, using factor 3. So, kunin natin yung 12. And then, maghahanap tayo ng number na pwede makapag-divide. Or maghahanap tayo ng mga number na, or prime numbers na pwede makapag-divide sa 12. And also, 12 can be divided by 2. And the result of that is 6, and also 6 can be divided by 2. And the result of that is 3. And also 3 is only 3 is a prime factor na. Ano po? So after that, ilagay natin siya dito sa loob ng radical symbol. So we have 2 times 2 times 3 from these factors. Ano po? Because 2 times 2 times 3 is also 12. So since we're finding the square root of 12 and the index of that is only 2, so meaning to say, yung 2 yan, magpa-partner tayo ng number by 2. So ngayon, ano ba yung mga number na pwedeng lumabas? So since we're dealing with the index of 2, ang pwedeng lumabas lang dyan, yung may mga partner. Ano po? So ano may mga partner dyan? Eto lang yung may partner na same number. At ano yung mga bawal lumabas? Bawal lumabas yung mga walang partner. So sa loob lang sila ng bahay nila. Yung mga walang partner sa loob lang ng bahay. Ano po? Yung may mga partner, lalabas na ng bahay. So ano yung pwedeng lumabas dito? Yung 2. So ilagay na natin dito yung 2. Ano mangyayari dito sa isa na 3? Ano mangyayari dito sa 3? So mangyayari po dyan is it will remain inside the radical symbol. So meaning to say, ilalabas ko yung 2 and also yung 3 matitira sa loob ng radical symbol. So the result is positive or negative 2 the square root of 3 because hinahanap natin yung square root. So sabi natin, kapag mayroon tayong square root, dalawa yung sagot. Ano po? Square root or roots. The result is positive 2 the square root of 3 and negative 2 the square root of 3. At kapag hinahanap naman natin yung principal square root, kapag principal square root, we're just going to get the positive roots. Ano po? So the positive roots is, or the positive root is only positive 2 the square root of 3. So the result of the square root of 12 is this one, and also the principal square root of 12 is this one. Let's try another example. The square root of 112. Hahanapin natin yung principal square root at yung square root or tinatawag nating roots. Ano po? Okay, let's try finding the square root and principal square root of 112. So, kunin natin yung 112. Kunin natin yung 112 and then gamitin natin yung factor 3 or prime factorization. 112 can be divided by 2. And the result of that is 56. And also, 56 can be divided by 2. And the result of that is 28. Also, 28 can be divided by 2. And the result of that is 14. And 14 can be divided by 2. And the result of that is 7. Ngayon, kukunin na natin yung nakuha nating mga prime factors. So we have these prime factors 2, 2, 2, and then 7. Kunin natin yan, ilagay natin dito sa loob ng radical symbol. So
We have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 7.
So ngayon, magdi-decide tayo kung ano yung mga numbers na pwedeng lumabas, ano yung mga numbers na hindi pwedeng lumabas, at ano yung mga numbers na i-multiply natin para magkaroon tayo ng result ng principal square root or the square roots. Ano po? So ano yung pwedeng lumabas? Ano kaya yung mga number na pwedeng lumabas? So ang pwedeng lumabas po dyan, since we are dealing with the square root, so ang index po ulit is 2. So, hahanap tayo ng number na may partner. Ano po? So, we have this 2, 2. So, meaning to say, yung 2 ito, ilang ang pwede lumabas. So, ilagay na natin siya dito, yung 2, at eto naman na 2, magiging isa na lang siya na 2. Ano po? So, ano mangyayari dito sa 7? Kasi wala siyang partner, mag-iisa lang siya dito sa loob ng radical symbol. So, kumbaga po, siya po yung maiiwan, ito yung magiging remain sa loob ng radical symbol. So, ano mangyayari dito sa inalabas natin na number? I-multiply natin siya. And the result of that is 2 times 2 is 4. And then, meron tayong natirang 7 dito sa loob ng radical. So, the result is, for our square root or roots of a number, the result are positive for the root of 7 and negative for the square root of 7. Ano po? So, how about this principal square root? So, in principal square root, kukunin lang natin yung positive number or positive result. So, we have positive for the square root of 7. So, that is finding the nth root of a perfect square and a non-perfect square. So, meaning to say, perfect square are rational numbers and non-perfect square are irrational numbers. So, I hope you learned from this tutorial. Thank you and God bless.